Here's the History of Medicine exam from 2020. Yours will look just like this. They are laid out exactly the same. Section A, Question 1, 4 marks. The start of the question is always the same. This one's broken down for you. Describe 2 features of something or other. For example, a feature of a face is a nose or eyes or ears. You need to write 2 full sentences for each feature, as in with a full stop in between. Don't put it all in one long sentence. Begin by writing 1 feature of, and then describe the feature. Then, in a second sentence, develop your answer. The second sentence must give more detail without repeating yourself, e.g., the nose is used for breathing and smelling. Once you've written your 2 sentences for the first feature, do it again for the second, and don't repeat yourself. The examiner can't give you more marks for saying the same thing. This question should take about 4 or 5 minutes. Pause the video and read my example answer. Question 2A, 8 marks. It always starts the same way. How useful are sources A and B for an inquiry into such and such? This question is asking you to explain how useful 2 sources are to explaining whatever the inquiry is about. In this case, the effects of a gas attack. I like to imagine that you're trying to explain the inquiry to your younger sibling, and all you have to help you do it are these 2 sources. How useful are they in helping you explain it? It is not asking you to decide which is more useful. Neither is it asking how reliable or trustworthy it is. So don't write about those things, it's a waste of time. How useful is the source? It's going to be somewhat useful. Just remember nachos. N, nature. What type of source is it? Photograph, government report, diary, etc. A, author. Who made it? C, content. What does the source talk about or show us? H, happening. In other words, does it agree with what you knew was happening then? Or put another way, that doesn't fit with this acronym, talk about your own knowledge. O, omitting. What does this source not tell you? This is where you say it is not as useful as it could be, because no source is. A photo can help us picture something in our heads, but it doesn't help us know if what we're seeing was happening everywhere or only in this image. Finally, S, special reason. Why was the source made? What's the reason it exists? Don't worry too much about the order, just try to remember to cover all the letters in nachos. This question should take about 11 to 12 minutes to write, with another 3 or 4 minutes before that looking at the sources, so about 15 minutes in total. Pause the video and read my answer. See if you can spot the nachos. Remember, the example is only half an answer. I'd need a second paragraph for source B. Question 2B, 4 marks. It always starts the same. How could you follow up source A to find out more about whatever? Easy to get marks here. First one, choose a quote from the source, or if it's a picture, describe a part of it. Ask a question about it. Make sure this links to the quote you just gave, and make sure it can have a clear-cut answer. My example here is, what could be done to help a soldier affected by a gas attack? Even though you don't need to know the answer, this question has many obvious answers: hospital care, surgery, rest and relaxation, therapy, etc. A question like, how did it feel, is far more vague and hard to answer. What type of source could I use? Memorize these sources and say one of them here. Medical records, hospital admission records, army records, official reports, government reports, and diaries. Those are the best sources for here. Lastly, tell me how the source you chose would answer your question. This question should take about 4 to 5 minutes. Pause the video and have a look at what I wrote. Section B, Question 3, 4 marks. This question is always asking you to compare 2 periods from the History of Medicine unit, medieval, Renaissance, etc. And it will always ask you either how similar or how different they were to each other. I made a table to show you. It's always explain one way in which, and then the focus of the question, e.g. the role of the physician or the treatment of disease, etc. in one period, and how similar or different it is in another period. First things first, this is a 4-marker, but it's not asking for 2 things like question 1 did. So only talk about one thing. You don't get marks for a second. Say what that thing is, physicians diagnose patients, treatments involve taking medicine, etc., and develop your description in a second sentence if you can. Then explain what the thing was like in one time period in a sentence and how it was in the second time period in another sentence. Do not write everything in one long, rambling sentence. Examiners prefer short, sharp, pithy sentences, and lots of them. Students seem to struggle more when the question asks for a similarity than a difference. Just make sure if the question asks for a similarity, you don't give a difference, and vice versa. This question should take about 4 to 5 minutes. Pause the video and read my answer. Question 4, 12 marks. It always starts the same way. Explain why a thing happened. This is not an essay question where you need to make a judgment. Whatever the question's focus is, it's already true. It's not up for debate. There was rapid progress after 1900. There was more continuity than change in medieval times. It's not an argument. You are simply giving 3 reasons why it happened, and 2 of them have been given to you already. You do not need an introduction or a conclusion. You can just dive straight in. If it helps you to settle your mind and get thinking, then sure, write a 1-sentence introduction. You won't lose marks, but you won't gain any either. This is a case of writing 3 PEE paragraphs. Imagine trying to convince your friend to go to the cinema with you. You first give them a point. We haven't been to the movies in ages. Then you back up your point with a fact. It's especially good if you can include a number or a name in there. The last time we went to the cinema was at Christmas. That's all the facts you need. The rest is explanation. In a minimum of 2 sentences, explain how the example you gave proves the point you made. Last Christmas was however many months ago. That's a long time. Other friends go a lot more regularly than that. And there you go. 3 easy, short, clear-cut sentences of explanation. This question should take about 18 to 20 minutes. Pause the video and read my answer. Question 5 or 6. 16 marks plus 4 marks for SPAG. Choose just one of them, but read both to decide which you think you can talk about in more detail. The questions are all arranged the same way. A quote, which is an opinion on something, then the same text every time. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. This is an essay question asking for judgment. You need an introduction. You need 3, or if you think you have time, 4 PEE paragraphs, similar to how you wrote them in question 4. And you need a conclusion. My goodness, you need a conclusion. It is the most important paragraph. Do not end the essay without one. I know it's tiring. I know you spent ages writing the rest of the essay, but this is the most important part. 10 marks out of the 16 are for explanation, and most of that comes from the conclusion. If you're running out of time at the end of the exam, you should stop writing the main paragraphs and skip to the conclusion. Or, here's an idea. Start your exam with this question and then go back and do the others. Up to you, but write that conclusion. The intro needs a sentence of background about the question's topic and for you to address the question. For more information about PEE paragraphs, go back to my advice on question 4. Let's just spend some time now on what a good conclusion looks like. You should summarize the counter-arguments without just writing a list, then dismiss them and end very clearly on the main argument you made in your essay. No sitting on the fence saying it's a bit of this and a bit of that. It's always a bit of this and a bit of that. Examiners want to see you stick your neck out with an actual point of view. This is the most important question in the exam, and you should spend no less than 23 minutes on it. Pause the video and read my example conclusion. See if you can spot how I summarize and dismiss the counter-arguments and end on a definitive opinion.